Hey guys, welcome back to the live stream. So we are back for another week, back in the home studio this week. Came off of the road from being down in Ohio. Let's see here, I got back into town Wednesday? I think Wednesday. And so yeah, been playing catch up all week, trying to get caught up on comments and emails and all the other stuff coming in. Owen, AP, how's it going, guys? Good to have you guys here already. I love it when there's people waiting because it takes some of the pressure off to be totally prepared when I go live. So, yeah, welcome to the live stream, guys. So, yeah, back from Ohio, got some really good footage of Taylor's Wheeled Trencher. That's going to be going live here probably. It's probably going to be not this coming week, but the following, just because I've got a couple of videos already slated for next week. And I've got to actually edit the footage from this past week. I've kind of spent my time processing through all of it, trying to get rid of the garbage shots and keep the good shots. So I will start editing this coming week. So yeah, it'll be the following week before that footage goes live. So James, Richie, nice to see you guys. Thanks for joining in. So I guess we should officially kick this thing off the right way with our drink. So tonight we're drinking the old school JMO. Nothing fancy this evening, but we are going to do this over the rocks. We don't mix Jameson because it's too stinking good. That's good stuff. So yeah, Elliot, what's happening, brother? James, how are you? Good to see you guys. BC Diggerman, yeah, the old school walkarounds, yes. James, I am drinking Jameson. I just poured it actually, but we got a nice Jameson here that we're drinking this evening. So yes, but going back, BC, those old school walkarounds, the Chuck Wagon. I don't know how that thing was allowed to be on the road. I got the biggest kick out of that thing, outside of the fact that it smelled just as bad as it looked, if not worse. But believe it or not, they finally got rid of that truck. I think. Now that being said, believe it or not, they got rid of that truck only like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm shocked it stuck around that long, in all honesty, because you saw the condition it was in, but yes. Oh, that's good. It's hard to beat, Jameson. It really is. That's freaking good stuff. And it's Nathan, right, with Cox Landscaping. Tell me I remembered your name. It's Nathan. I'm almost going to put $5 on it. Of course, James. Of course it's going to be Coors. I hear you, brother. I try not to judge. I judge. I sound like I'm judgy, but it's more to give you shit than anything else. So, yeah, Owen, the Irish whiskey, it's hard to beat them. Irish whiskeys and then a good scotch. Oh, man, those are the two that really get me. I didn't used to be a hard alcohol drinker. In fact, I hated hard liquor whatsoever. And then, man, it was a guy actually down the road from us at the liquor store here that is a big scotch drinker, and he got me into tasting scotches, and it's been a downhill slope ever since then. Like, it was really worth the investment for him, because now I keep him in business with my scotch and Irish whiskey habit. So it is what it is. Alan, thank you. I really appreciate that. I can't even talk. I really appreciate that. And yes, it's growing like crazy. So we were just looking at our stats before I went live. The video I posted on Friday already has over 2,900 views. We are already almost to 3,000 views on that video, and I'm like, what? That's like 6 times the amount of views we typically have on a video. So my wife and I were doing a little happy dance around the kitchen this evening. So it's very exciting. But that being said, exciting for you and James as well. Both of you guys are growing like crazy. It took me 6-ish years to get to 1,000 subscribers, and you and James both are fully monetized now. So kudos to you guys. That's awesome. I'm super excited to see you guys growing at the rate you are. So, but yeah, let's pop back in here. AP, I did not get your message on Instagram, because I actually was looking for a message from you, considering that I held to my promise to take that picture for you. I never got a message from you, man. So I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I have no messages. But yes, I did get your Doosan pictures for you, brother. I thought about you. In fact, my alarm didn't even go off on my phone. I remembered first thing in the morning, which is why you got those cool sunrise pictures with the sun behind the bucket there. So, yeah. Nice. D350D Cat. Okay, so gotcha. Northeast Ohio farmer. Where at in Ohio? Because I just came from Northeast Ohio, up in the Grafton area, and I was running a little Doosan 140. So thanks, James. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're comfortably over 7,000 now. I'm gonna say that by tomorrow we will be halfway to 10,000 subscribers. Like it is awesome at the rate that we've had an uptick. In fact, I actually went and confidently bought about $1,000 worth of camera equipment day before yesterday, for an upcoming shoot I've got. So I got some wireless lav mics. I've got a brand new gimbal coming. I'm very excited about. I know that most of you guys have no idea what that is, and that's totally okay because you guys aren't camera nerds like I am. But I'm super excited for the capabilities on this gimbal. But I did just go drop a fair amount of money on it, so it is what it is. Garrett, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Series Ford, yeah, those old Ford trucks, man. I was right. Cox Landscaping, Nathan. Now we'll see if I can remember it for next week. I'm proud of myself for remembering it this week, but yeah, we got her down. Dang, so you're all the way from El Paso, you got to Midland. Holy smokes, man. Richie, how long were you on the road for? That's got to be So let me think about that. Midland, Odessa, from El Paso, that's what, like a 6-7 hour drive? I'm totally spitballing because it's been so long since I've been down. Let me think about that now. Yeah, Midland, Odessa. See, in my mind, Midland, Odessa is still over on the west side of the state. But now I'm second guessing and think it's on the east side. But yeah, that's a crap long drive right there. But I'm glad you were able to make it, Richie. I appreciate it. Alan and James kind of bouncing back into your conversation. Yes, it is significantly harder to grow the channel than I originally anticipated, and also the takeoff has taken substantially longer. So when we started hitting this full time back in March, I was kind of guesstimating that by like fall time, maybe Christmas, we would start to be ramping up pretty well. The reality was, oh, Richie, it was only 4 hours. Well, then why am I giving you all this credit? You should have ran with the 6 hours, brother. But yeah, right around the Christmas time frame, we had started to ramp up, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't ramped up that much. I think we were at like 16 or 1700 subscribers. It wasn't until really we haven't seen the hard ramp on the channel until like the last month and a half is where it's really started to ramp up hardcore. So yeah, hoping it continues. I mean, I feel like we're doing something right if it started to ramp this hardcore, and I'm seeing more and more new faces in the live stream here, which is really exciting. I can't tell you guys again how much I appreciate you guys hanging out on the live stream, which, by the way, before I forget, everybody, while I've got your attention, we are not doing a live stream next Sunday because it's going to be Easter weekend. That's number one. Number two, to go to your question, James, of when the next trip is, actually next week. So I'm here in town this whole week. I'll be editing last week's footage with the wheeled trencher and everything to prep videos while I then go out of town again. I'm actually, believe it or not, going to almost the exact same spot in Ohio that I just came back from. There is a company called Fetchco Excavating. You may know them on Instagram if any of you guys follow them, but they've actually hired me to go do a production video for them. But then I'm also sticking around for a couple days to do some filming of my own. They've agreed to give me access to their sites to get some, and they're a good sized company. So we're going to be getting some quad tracks pulling pans. They've got a Cat 365, I believe is their largest hoe. She told me she'd get me on that job site. I think they run a fair amount of D6Ts, so we'll get some good size equipment. But I am going to be back down there for a couple days. And then Taylor, the guy I was just working with, since we're already going to be in that area, if he needs help, I've offered him a couple more days. So I will be out the full week. So all that to say, next Sunday, there will not be a live stream. But yeah, let's pop back in here to the comments. Yeah, AP, shoot me a message for sure, because I don't know if that was, I'm assuming it was a private message, in which case I have not gotten any private messages. Even still, I don't know if you're sending it now or not. Let's see here. James, did you guys get another round of snow up there? We've gotten rain, but we haven't gotten any snow. I think we're done with snow for the year. Hey, thanks, Lindsay. 10L Hunt is my cousin out there in God dang it, I always forget. You're in Washington. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you, cuz. Garrett, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear you're loving school. If you like school, wait until you get on a real job site and start running the big iron and start being a part of that team. Like, that's when it really gets exciting. So that's awesome. Glad to hear. If you've got any questions, feel free down here, this side. Yeah, this side. I'm really good at doing the mirrored pointing thing. Over here, you will see my email address pop up. If you have any questions about anything in your classes or you want more clarification, do not hesitate to email me. That's why I make myself available via live stream or anything else. Don't hesitate to shoot me an email if you got questions on stuff. But that's awesome. MRUP. I'm just gonna call you MRUP. I'm assuming that stands for something, but doing the Army thing. So that is awesome. Joining the Army, doing heavy equipment operating construction thing, that will set you, yes, that will 100% set you up really well for a job coming out. I actually, if you go back, it's been like 3 or 4 weeks now since I did it, but I did a video on resume building for construction, and one of the top ones that I talk about is having military experience. Absolutely play that up. Employers love to see that because it means you're used to working outside, you're used to working long hours, and you're used to people not giving you pats on the back. So that's a really big indicator that you can really do something substantial in this industry. So Nick, I think I actually missed you up top. I did see it, but I forgot to say something. Nick, as always, welcome, brother. But let's go back to your question here. Oh, I lost my spot. Hang on. So James, it's snowing right there. Oh, dang, man, you guys are getting pounded this year. So we've gotten rain, like I said. We've gotten, over the last couple days, we've gotten some decent rain, but it's all been rain. We're not far enough north for that to actually turn to snow. I did notice about an hour and a half north of here, they were getting some snow, but luckily we've just stuck it out with rain. Yeah, I don't, man. Watching, so Nick, and just so everyone's aware, Nick and James are up in the same rough area in Canada, and that's why they're going back and forth about snow, even though we are into April now, right? We are in April. No, we're about to be in April. Ooh, boy, lost track of time there for a second. But yeah, you can quit that snow business. Like, I'm totally done with it. In fact, we were outside yesterday. So we're in this weird part of the year now where in Michigan we get the flip-flop from summer to winter, summer to winter, summer to winter. And so we were outside yesterday in short sleeves, jumping on the trampoline with the kids, talking about how ready we are for summer. We ate dinner out back on the porch. And then today our high was like 42 degrees, and it's rainy and nasty, and the wind is blowing, and it'll about freeze you out. So I really don't like this time of year. I like it another 2 or 3 weeks from now where spring is fully here, everything's in bloom, and I know for a fact I don't have to deal with any more snow. Let's take a look, AP. We're gonna see. You are chatting with the correct diesel and iron, right? You have to. Oh, hang on a second. 9+ requests. Ah. Okay. All right, so we're going to accept it. Hang on a second here. We're going to accept your message, AP. I've got you, brother. So that's what it was. It kicked you in with all the spam. Yep, that's what it was. Now I have to go through these and figure out. Oh, Nick, you apparently. This is, you know what? I don't have time for this. We're live on the internet. I don't have time, guys. I don't have time. But I am going to have to go through those. But Nick, Santa Maria, I did not ignore you. I just found your message also in the spam folder that I didn't know existed until this very moment, so I apologize. It's nothing personal. But I will go through those at some point in time, and if there's anyone else out there that I've missed your messages, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was there. Brandon, how's it going over there in New York, man? You guys have got to be fairly similar in weather to us over here in Michigan. But yeah, thanks for coming to hang out. Where are you at, Elliot? Because we didn't see any snow today, at least here in I'm just about a half hour east of Lansing in Howell, and we didn't have any snow. But yes, I agree. Gotta love Michigan at this part of the year. Sorry, I got a hair just right at the corner of my eye that I can see, and it's driving me nuts. Freezing rain is a blast. I don't like freezing rain, Nick. There you go, James. Dirt season started, man. Phil, what's going on, man? How's the weather down there in Australia? That's who we really ought to start ragging on, is Phil down there, because he's in like beautiful sunshine, I bet, at this point of the year, while we're all still trying to work ourselves out of the winter months. So that's who we ought to be. You know, I love you, Phil. I need to come see you because you got the good weather. Garrett, that's a great question. It's going to depend a lot on your employer. The sad truth is they don't mean as much as you would think they would, just because everyone realizes when you come out of any one of those schools, you are qualified to make the machines move, but you still don't know like all of the intricacies of laying storm pipe or water pipe, or you don't know the whole process in installing a road, and you don't know how to differentiate between different types of aggregate on the job site. So unfortunately, I mean, don't get me wrong, it does mean something. That is going to mean something on your application and your resume. Absolutely put it on there because it will give you a leg up. Don't get me wrong there. But at the same time, don't think that you're going to go on a job site and instead of being stuck in a little D5, you're going to go jump on a D7 or a D8 and start hogging, or you're going to be put on a 385 digging main line. Like, that's not going to happen. So it will absolutely help you, but it's also, this is just understand you are still very much on the front of learning even in this career. So that's the best advice I can give you there. Nick, that's awesome, man. So you guys are within 2 weeks of moving dirt. That's great. I tell you, I got on Rick's job, the mulcher job that you guys saw the footage from this past week. That was 2 weeks ago that I was on that job, and man, it felt good to get back out on a job site. Even though I wasn't running anything on that job site, it felt good. And then this last week, getting back in the seat of a hoe, I mean, we're all operators here. You know how it goes. And I talk about this actually in the first vlog I'm going to put out. I was watching some of the footage and I talk specifically about this. We're all the same. Like when the layoff comes in the winter, you're like, sweet Jesus, thank you. I'm ready to sit for a little bit and catch my breath. And then within like a month and a half, you start getting antsy to get back in the seat because we're all goldfish and we don't remember the crazy hours we were pulling or why we were so stressed out. So I'm the same way. Like as soon as I got back in that seat of the hoe, it was like, oh, it's so good. It's so good to get back in the seat and start pulling sticks again. So, Elliot, where are you working? You're starting a new job. Where are you working? And I can't remember if you've told us that before. Let me scroll back up here because I can't remember if Elliot was the one that said gotta love Michigan or not. Where was that comment? I don't even remember where the comment was. Rupp, thank you. I just saw your comment on subscribing. Hey, I appreciate the subscription, man. I really do. That's the thing. So now we're starting to grow and we're starting to get enough traffic in here that I'm actually starting to lose my place in the comments, which, don't get me wrong, is a great thing. I love the growth, but it does make my job a little more difficult here because I don't want to miss people. I don't want to have people fall through the cracks. AP, thank you. I appreciate the compliment on the pictures. I tried to get you some nice ones as opposed to just going out there and kind of half-assing some pictures. So, and there are more coming. I've got more that I took with my nice camera that I haven't had a chance to go through and edit yet, but we'll get you some more pictures, brother. Okay, Elliot. So where is Mattawan? I gotta look that up. You guys want to join me over here in the browser. Where the heck is Mattawan, Michigan? That sounds like a UP. Oh, no, you're in Bear County. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Hang on, guys. Hang on, just bear with me. Oh, okay, out by Pawpaw. I'm with you. Come on, computer. So I've actually got a group of guys in the Battle Creek area that run a sewer truck. If you guys have never seen sewer pump trucks work, the ones that they use to actually jet the sewer lines, stay tuned, because I am going to go get some footage with that crew. And those trucks are amazing pieces of technology. Even though they deal in poop all the day, it's amazing. It's still technically, I guess you could call it part of the heavy equipment industry, because they also do some hydro excavation with those trucks as well. But I absolutely, when I was selling equipment, we sold some of those sewer trucks. And you want to talk about an amazing career that you didn't even know existed. These guys love what they do, and these guys are true operators. They will put their hand, you have a jetter line that comes off the front of the truck that runs about 2,000 to 3,000 psi of water, depending on the truck setup, and it is spraying through a nozzle, clearing all of the shit out of the pipe and blowing it all back towards the truck. And then you have a vac line that goes down so that you can suck all of the solid waste out of there so that you can get a really clean pipe. These guys will put their hand on that jetter hose, and they will just be able to, by feel, know what that hose is doing and what it's going through and how much forward pressure they need to give it or how much return pressure. It is amazing watching these guys work. So stay posted. Later on in the year, I'm going to try to go out and see those guys. Excuse me, I was really tight with those guys when I was selling equipment, and I'm confident I can get back out there on that crew. So I do want to get some footage of that, because that's a great career and nobody knows that one exists. So I know I'm a little late here, but yeah, Nick, Phil has admitted and is still admitting he's never seen snow in real life, which part of me, that hurts my heart. There is a part of me, Phil, that hurts that you've never seen snow, but at the same time, like a month in, you wish you'd never seen snow in your life. It's terrible. Once it's all nasty and gross and everything's wet and cold and half frozen, or it's slop and it's getting all over everything, you're okay not seeing snow. But yes. Brandon, going on the 14th to fill out my application, become an apprentice in the heavy equipment union in the state. Where are you at, Brandon? Just out of curiosity. I will say this about the apprenticeship program with the union. Last I had heard that it was pretty difficult to get into the apprenticeship program right now because of all the stuff going on with COVID. In fact, I don't even think they took any applicants here in Michigan. I could be wrong, don't quote me, but I don't believe they took any applicants this past year into the apprenticeship program because of all of the COVID stuff going on. So that being said, don't let that hold you back. If you don't get a call back from the union, or you can't get into the apprenticeship program right away, don't go to a temporary crap job thinking that you'll just try again next year and the next year and the next year. Go see if you can hire in with a small to mid-sized company, and even if you're starting on the shovel, or if they throw you in a piece of equipment, great. That's still really valuable experience, and you can jumpstart your career, even though you're not going directly through the union. Phil, I bet that's right. I've seen videos of the hailstorms you guys get out your way. Good God, man, you're throwing freaking softballs from the sky. That's unreal. H&K Excavating. Yes. And H&K, God, we did talk about that, didn't we, Elliot? And why does that sound so freaking familiar? I want to say Kalamazoo. I want to say there's a possible. What's the owner's name at H&K? If you will put that in the comments, what is his name? Because I may have actually demoed a dozer for you guys, believe it or not. Is it Kip? God, why is the name Kip coming to mind? There's one of those companies out there, and I'm pretty sure he was out of Kalamazoo, and that's why H&K is probably ringing a bell. I may have demoed a Case 2050 for them a year and a half ago or so, before I got shit canned from that company. So Yeah, and if that is the guy I'm thinking of, he's a really solid guy to work for. He's a really nice guy. Let's see here. Good morning. Oh, this is it Mish? Is it Misha? No, Misha was in last week and he had a fully Russian name, didn't he? So the guy with the dump truck's name that said good morning. It is actually evening here, but good morning to you. And what is your name? Because I don't know how to pronounce the stuff that's on the front of dump trucks. I'm sorry. I'm an ignorant American and I don't have any other languages that I know. I'm sorry. Nick, those trucks. So if you're going a sewer truck that's outfitted pretty average is going to cost you anywhere from $300,000 to $550,000. If you step up to the hydro excavators, that's going to cost you more like $600,000 or $700,000. And the reason is they've got a blower that's almost twice the size of the sewer trucks because they're sucking mud all day. They will quite literally, so they have these blowers. They work the same as a blower on a car. They're just a huge scaled up version. So it's called a positive displacement blower, which means that it's not a fan that creates a vacuum. It's actually removing air from the system. If you think about a fan, like think about just a fan that you'd have in your room. The second you block off airflow to that fan, it's still spinning, but it's not doing anything. The difference between a fan unit and a PD, or positive displacement blower, is the positive displacement is physically removing air with the lobes in that blower. They're removing air from the system. And so even if you totally cut off the air supply, in fact, that's on a PD unit, that's when PD units build their vacuum and become powerful sucking beasts, is when you totally close off the end of the pipe, because then it starts creating a vacuum. And it will create I think it was 18 inches. It was either 18 or 24 inches of water is the vacuum that it would create on the inside of that truck. And when you let that sucker go, once you had that vacuum built, it was amazing. You could be standing 3 feet away from the end of that tube and you could feel the air rush past you as it all got sucked into the truck. So those things are freaking awesome. So yes, we will get some at some point this year. That is one of my goals for this summer, is to go get some sewer truck, and then I'd like to get hydro excavating just on its own, because it's really, if you haven't been around those trucks at all, they are fascinating pieces of equipment, and what those guys do is pretty fascinating as well. So let's see here, where was I? 106 area, New York. Brandon, gotcha. Okay, so yeah, like I said, if you can't get into the union for whatever reason, don't let that hold you back from starting your career. Go find a company to work for. In fact, I have no idea the geography of New York, but see if upstate New York Brush Control is hiring, if they're around you, or you've also got Dirt Boss over there. I don't know how far he is from you. See if he's hiring. Then you get some YouTube time too. Yeah, Elliot. Yes, so it was Kip. So I'm sure Kip will not remember me at all. But in the off chance he does, you should tell him that punk kid from Southeastern Equipment that demoed that dozer that we had the fan blow up on says hello and hopes things are good. So that was actually, I totally forgot about that until just now. I took that 2050, we drove it all the way over from this side of the state because we had an existing relationship with H&K through my old manager. So I take this 2050 out. It's a brand spanking new machine. I want to say it was a 2018, but it had been sitting on Case's production lot for 2 years. So they went through it, they fired it up, they made sure everything was okay on the machine before we purchased it as a dealership for a discount, because it was a 2-year-old model. Even though it was brand new, it literally had, I think, 6 hours on the engine. So we trucked this thing all the way out to Kip. And at the time, he was all the way out. He was past Kalamazoo. I can't even remember where he was at. He was on the west side of the state. We truck it all the way out there. I run him through the machine, get him all squared away, and then I actually had another stop. I think I was doing a demo for a road mill down in northern Indiana. And so I ran down there in Fort Wayne. And so I'm in Fort Wayne 2 days later on this demo, and I get a call from Kip that the fan just exploded in this 2050. and sent shrapnel all through the engine compartment. And it turns out what it was is it basically that fan had just dry rotted, I guess, over the 2 years of sitting without moving at all. And it was not the most shining moment, but at the same time the machine performed okay. It was just the fan issue. So we ended up hauling her back, and I had my tail tucked between my legs, so it wasn't the most proud moment. Nick, shut your mouth. Shut your pie hole on Case. Good God, man. I knew it was coming. As soon as I started saying anything negative about Case. Alan, I have not heard back from Fecon, but that doesn't surprise me. I sent them a link to that on, might have been Friday, and I did it through their generic contact us on their webpage. So it's probably going to be a week or so before someone goes through and checks that account and actually gets back with me. I didn't expect to hear anything on Friday afternoon. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we hear something and maybe we'll get a little work off of that one. But if nothing else, they've at least got a cool video they can show, because that one was fun to make. I really did. That video started with me. There's a guy I follow on YouTube that does filmmaking, because that's where I get a lot of my filmmaking stuff, is I follow a lot of actual filmmakers on YouTube. And this guy is Joshio, on his channel is Make Art Now. And he uses a lot of the archive, like newsreels and stuff in his videos. And I always thought that added a really unique flair to his videos, and I really liked that. So I was like, I'm going to go do that. So I spent an evening Googling old archival footage, and I stumbled across a couple websites that have like radio shows going back to the 1920s. They've got old broadcasts from World War II. There's video broadcasts of the Hindenburg. I mean, it's like, and it's real, totally untouched. It's literally, they have uploaded and digitized the old film reels as is, and you're watching them. And so that's how that whole thing started, was me browsing those archives. And I was like, okay, I've got this Fecon head. And I started thinking about like search terms that I would use to describe a Fecon. And the thing that kept coming up was destruction. So when I went and searched through these archives, all right, see you, Phil. Thanks for hanging out, man. I really do appreciate you hanging out. But as I was browsing through these archives, searching for destruction, of course, one of the biggest things to come up was all the World War II stuff, and specifically about the atom bomb. And so that kind of is how that whole project started, was with the archived footage. I kind of had those clips that I knew I wanted to use, and then it was a matter of, okay, let's piece the video together and try to make it mate with the story that's being told with the audio. And then I didn't want it to just be kind of a generic, like, oh, this guy threw some archive footage in there and called it good. So I started using the stutter effect. I created the stutters in the audio because I thought that was cool. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to stutter the audio, it would be cool to kind of glitch the video too. So I threw some glitches in there, and then it morphed into adding sound effects to kind of beef that up. And it was a really fun project. I know I kind of go down a nerd hole on making videos, and you guys may or may not be into that, but I had a lot of fun making that one. So yes, it did take me 6 hours to put out a 2.5 minute video, but it was like not half of that time, probably a solid hour and a half of that time was just going through archive footage, picking music that kind of fit to go with it, and then searching for sound effects that I like to actually reinforce all of that. The actual editing didn't take that long. It was just kind of all of the support work that went into it. So anyway, pretty cool. Living in the Mitten. So you must be, yeah, that's a Michigander right there, just north. Oh, Cohocton, dude, you're right down the road. Yeah. So what are you doing in Farmington, just out of curiosity? And what kind of job and who you working for? Elliot, there's a decent chance it turned him off a case. I don't think I totally burned him. His main complaint with the machine, believe it or not, wasn't the fan issue. I mean, Kip was really understanding, which I appreciated. His bigger complaint was there was some rattle going on in the cab. I think we could have figured that out pretty well, but there were a couple small things that he just wasn't a fan of, and it also didn't make sense for him to purchase a machine from us that we were then going to have to service, even though he was on the opposite side of the state. And just so you guys are aware, behind the scenes with dealerships, there are agreements that you don't sell outside of your territory. So had he taken that machine to his local dealership, that would have caused a whole mess of headaches for a lot of people. So it was gonna be a difficult deal to do anyways. The reality is the only reason we demoed that machine was really because of the relationship between Kip and my old manager. So anyway, that's kind of old history, but that's why I finally figured that out. That's why H&K rings a bell, is because that was Kip, and I have met him and actually spent some time with him. 40 minutes south of Fort Wayne. So Garrett, you are familiar with the old Southeastern Equipment. I was actually just in that area a little while back. So I know, Nick. I know you can't resist. And likewise, any chance I get to give you crap about your Pink Whitney Pussy Juice, I'm going to do the same. I can't resist. Nick, 100%. Yeah, that was... When you're the sales guy, you walk a fine line on what you can say in jest and what you can say where you might come off as an asshole. And that was one of those where I was like, yeah, most dozers are going to rattle in the cab. Like, I've never ran one that didn't have a rattle. I really think the rattle was coming from Case actually has the cages that go over the windows for doing forestry. And I think we could have actually put a couple bushings in those and totally taken that rattle out of it. But like I said, there was so much other stuff going on with that whole sales process. It was really, like, it was going to be a difficult deal to do. So, it is what it is. So, no joke. You work for Fonson. So, Fonson, believe it or not, is, well, because, you're right up the road. But yeah, Fonson, they're getting in pretty tight with TLS around here. And I haven't really pushed hard, but I have sent out a few feelers to TLS to possibly get on some of their job sites. So, hey, maybe you could work your end and see if you can get me on the job site, brother. I'd appreciate that. But no, seriously, no pressure. But yeah, Stony Creek subdivision. Okay. And where did you say you were gonna be at? Farmington Hills. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a hike. I'm surprised they're working that far out with so much work that's around. I don't know, James. I wouldn't say that unless you're being sarcastic, because sadly, this is where I'm going to be honest. As much as I love Case, I adore Case. I have a soft spot in my heart for Case, as you guys can tell. But Case in the recent years has suffered from some pretty bad quality control issues at their plants. So, unfortunately, having multiple issues on a new machine for Case in the recent years isn't that much out of the question. Skid steers especially, so there's two reasons Case's skid steers have such a bad reputation right now. The first is because the Alpha Series sucked ass. It never should have gone to market when it did, and then they spent the whole time that the Alpha Series was in production chasing their tails on problems that should have been fixed before they ever exited. Okay, so you are being sarcastic. Okay, James, that makes more sense. But but I'm still gonna defend myself, damn it. But anyway, that's the first reason. But the second reason is quality control out of those plants were terrible. We would literally get skid steers in, and we had a direct order from Case that we had an hour and a half, 2 hour process to go through those to receive them from the factory to check the tightness of fittings and stuff. Now, that being said, now that I've shit all over Case, in their defense, I will say that they have since done a tremendous job of turning that around, and now quality control has gotten way better in those plants. Like everyone else, one thing that I did learn when I was selling equipment is if you buy new equipment, you're going to have issues from the factory. There's just no getting around the fact that you're getting something that is brand new. It's, you can inspect it as much as you want, but things are always going to slip through the cracks. There's always going to be these weird problems and quirks that you have to work out on a new machine. And that's why I've actually started, when it comes to most guys, I would recommend you go buy a machine that's got 400 or 500 hours on it. Get it really close to being new, but don't get it new. Get it after the first guy worked out all of those kinks and quirks and issues that came out of the factory, and that way you get a machine that's kind of settled in and it's going to run okay. So anyway, we got off onto a tangent there, but yeah. Let's see here. Oh, Nick, that sounds like a good time. What kind of loader? Volvo? You gonna rub a Volvo in my face again? And Elliot, yes, I've heard. Kip seemed like a super nice guy. My old manager Mike spoke super highly of him and the company. So yeah, I think you'll have a good time with him. Oh, Fairmount, the hometown of the actor James Dean. Oh, okay, interesting, Garrett. Interesting. And who knew all that came out of Indiana? And I thought Indiana was just another kind of boring state right next to Ohio. Who knew? Yeah, here you go, Nick. Nick and James. This is where they all dogpile. Dang, living in Benton. That's 3 crews in Farmington Hills. Problem is, that's such a hike, man. I was over in that area. Let's see here, Farmington Hills. Those all bleed together, and so it's really hard to remember exactly where I was at. Oh, no. I'm thinking, never mind. Farmington Hills is not that far. I'm thinking of Rochester Hills. God, no wonder. I was like, dang, that's going to be a long commute. Farmington Hills isn't bad at all. So yeah, let me know if, again, don't put yourself in an awkward position on my behalf by any means. I do not want that. But that being said, if it works itself into the conversation, if I could potentially come out and film, yeah, I would absolutely come out there and get something, because Fonson runs some pretty good size equipment. And those would be some pretty good job sites to film. James, I mean, everybody's got their own experience, but I will confidently tell you this. I ran into a ton of cat guys that also had issues with their brand new cat equipment. So it happens to everybody. That is one of the things in that whole equipment debate and I know that we're all just ragging on each other, but in a moment of seriousness, as much as everyone likes to rag on the next paint color, it is consistent across the board that everybody's machines have issues from the factory. It's more of a, did you draw the short straw type of deal if you don't have issues, because everybody and it's not big stuff. It's typically small stuff, like a hose that was technically torqued to the right, to the specified torque, but it worked itself loose through vibration within the first 200 hours, or some bolt that just randomly got, overlooked and wasn't torqued down, and maybe it rattles, or it's silly stuff. But almost everybody from the factory has their own little things. And to be honest, the other thing, James, that you might not think about is there's a good chance that Cat is so on top of those sort of things that they've got their own internal things that they go through as far as checks go, to kind of at the dealership level to kind of help verify that stuff like that isn't going to happen. So, let's see here. Oh, 938. Oh, 938, man. You're talking my language there. That 938's my machine. Gummit, I scratched myself earlier, and that sucker is bleeding like nobody's business. I may have to put you on pause for a second and go get something. We'll see what happens. I'm going to try to stop it. Not good. Bacon, what's going on, man? Good to have you. Yeah, Nick, those 938s are, for what they are, they handle a shitload of material. Like, I was such a fan. That's one of my favorite loaders to run. With the exception of that hydrostat transmission, that 938 was just a beast. Like, you could move all sorts of stuff with it. Nathan, I don't remember when exactly New Holland and Case came together, but the time that I'm talking about is actually recent, like within the last 2 years. We were on the horn with our reps as sales guys, like weekly, saying you've got to get it under control. And they actually Case had some pretty big meetings internally, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say because I was privy to some information because I was a sales guy. So I won't go too much into it, but I'll just say that there were some changes, some substantial changes made within Case, and it has finally gotten better on the quality control. So, Corey, first of all, thanks for subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you being here, brother. And to answer your question, how do you get a job? So you don't need a CDL. A CDL can help you, but at the same time, it's not something you need to go pay out of pocket to get. What I would say is start applying to small to mid-sized companies and see if you can get a job, and be very open and honest that you don't mind starting on a shovel, that your goal is to get into the seat and become an operator, but you don't mind starting as a laborer. Believe me, they will honor and respect that, and they will appreciate you saying that, and that will give you a big leg up to other guys who just want to get in the seat and don't want to spend some time on the shovel. That being said, a lot of those small to mid-sized companies, especially if you're on the smaller side, like 10 employees or so, a lot of times they need you to have a CDL, so they will actually help you get your CDL. They won't fully 100% pay for it, but at least you can use their trucks to practice, you can get your permit, and you can drive with one of their drivers, so you're not paying for a driving school. That's the way I would start. That's what I would start looking into, and I promise with how bad the trades are hurting right now, I would almost say within the next couple of weeks you could probably land yourself a position somewhere. So that's the way to get in. And if you do struggle to get hired, you could look into getting your CDL and paying to have it, but honestly, I don't think you'll have that big of a problem getting hired with where the industry is right now. Yeah, basically, Elliot. Oh, so Livin, you're familiar with Mike Z. I talk to Mike Z almost on a weekly basis. In fact, I just talked to him a couple days ago. He is working for R&R Asphalt out of, it's not Novi proper. It's right outside of Novi, maybe Wixom. I can't remember where R&R is out of. And he is one of their estimators there. So he actually talked to me this past week, believe it or not, about starting up a channel for R&R to showcase some of their work. So, but yeah, I talk to Mike all the time. In fact, we go to lunch probably once every other month or so. Ooh, sitting in Gary, Indiana. It's funny you're sitting, I'm assuming that's Gary, Indiana, which if it is, that is hilarious to me because when I moved to Michigan, my wife and I packed up our Penske truck and headed for Michigan, and right outside Gary, Indiana, we got a flat tire. And so we sat for like an hour and a half on the side of the road with our two dogs in the cab of this Penske waiting for the tire guy to show up. So I fully understand sitting on the side of the road in Gary, Indiana. I'm totally with you. Hey, congratulations, AP. What kind of company and what kind of work are you guys going to be doing? Oh, 100% Bacon. Like, that's... No one wants to hear that shovel is the way to go, but I think everyone in the industry will agree that you are a much better operator when you spend time on the shovel. And I don't even mean a short time. I mean like a year. At least a year spent on the end of a shovel. And that doesn't mean 100% on the end of the shovel. The way I got into the industry, I was primarily a laborer for the first 6 to 8 months. And then I operated some, but for the first year was still primarily a laborer, and then I transitioned over into being a full-on operator. But because of that, I know how to use a laser and a grade rod, and I understand what's going on down in the hole, and I can read what's going on down in the hole a lot better because I've been there and I've seen that site picture. So yeah, the shovel is 100% the way I recommend everyone start in this industry. as much as people don't want to hear it. So, and I'm glad to hear you're not on the side of the road, man. Nick, 100%. I 100% agree with that, and people hate hearing that, especially after they just spent however much money getting an education at a school. Even with schooling, you should still get on the end of a shovel. So, and Elliot, that's a great point. Like, that's one of those things that no one really thinks about, is the physical workout you get being on the end of a shovel. Like, it whips you into great shape. So, yeah, get on the end of the shovel and don't think you're too good for it. In fact, there are still times I like getting out of the cab and shoveling for no other reason other than getting a workout in. It just, like, it's so easy to get fat in the cab of a machine because you're sitting all day, you're generally eating on the go, you don't get out of your seat much, like you're pretty dang lethargic as an operator. Your mind's working like crazy and you're exhausted at the end of the day mentally, but you haven't done any physical work, and that's why so many operators are That's why so many operators are overweight. I've actually thought about, I don't know how well it will go over on my channel, but I've actually thought about doing a video on how to like do clean, good eating in the cab and like keeping an eye on your weight and making sure you're drinking enough water. Like those are all things as an operator, it's so easy to forget about. And then, you add in the Monster, which I'm 100% guilty of. I love my Monster. I'm fueled off of it in fact, every single day I was in Ohio, I made a Monster run. You will see in the videos coming. So, but all that adds up. I mean, I was looking at it. One of those Monsters is like 250 calories by itself. Like, that's not including any of the food I ate that day. 250 calories for a Monster. It's like, God. And I know guys that'll do 3 or 4 of those a day. It's outrageous. So, anyway. Ryan, as an operator, what are some key things a laborer can do to make operator's job easier? So one of the biggest things you can do is take the time to learn your operator, and your operator should be doing the same with you as a laborer. So learning how each other prefers to work, because some operators want you to keep up with them right there at the bucket, and they want you to be on those spoils, smoothing behind them, or laying pipe, or whatever it is you're doing. They want you right there at their bucket. And you have other operators that want you to stand back a little bit. They like having that safety cushion. They need their space to operate. You need to learn the operator. And likewise, the operator needs to learn you. So that's number one, I can tell you. Number two is communication. Anything on the job site, communication is key. And that can make or break an operator-laborer relationship, is a lack of communication between the two. So make sure you're communicating effectively, and that doesn't have to be verbal. I talk about that in my hand signals video, that you can develop your own hand signals with your operator, and you guys can speak your own language. When I was running loader, I had a laborer that I worked with for like 3-ish years, 4 years. I can't remember how many years we worked together, but we knew each other. And from across the job site, through the window of my loader, we're doing all of our hand signals. And I know he needs a bucket of pea stone, he needs a bucket of 6A, and he needs 2 more pieces of pipe. And we haven't said a single word. Like, we're across the job site doing hand signals to each other, because we had worked all of those out and we just knew how to read each other. Likewise, you'll learn that your operator has habits that he falls into. And so when he makes his 2 scratch passes and then his 1 long pass, he's done in that area, and you can move forward and you can start cleaning up and raking out. There's other operators that have their own little quirks that you need to learn. So that's the biggest thing, is just learning to work with that operator will make your life and his life much better. Yeah, Nick, that's the best way to start. And if you're still in the seat, apparently you're doing halfway decent. Bang and Rang are the way to go. I've never even heard of Bang and Rang. 300 milligrams of caffeine. Sweet Jesus. You're going to jitter like a crack addict after that. So, Nick, being in Canada, what kind of greenhouse are we talking here? Are we talking... Are we talking some tomato plants and some nice vegetables, maybe some flowers, or are we talking some weed, man? Because we are popping up weed greenhouses around here like crazy now that it's fully legal. So AP, you're doing groundworks. I don't know specifically what groundworks is because we don't really, I don't know, as far as in our area, we don't really use the term groundworks at all. But I'm assuming that's kind of, my guess would be that you're doing like road and shaping and stuff like that. I'm not really sure what groundworks would be. Or is it in groundworks? I don't know. I don't know. You're making me look like a rookie here. I've got the wide-eyed doe look here. Red Bulls. Red Bulls. And Nick, first the Pink Whitney, then your terrible beer choices, and now you're a Red Bull man. Like, Yeah, Elliot, the problem is that you jitter like a GPS when you're just right at the edge of losing sensitivity. Like your grade's on, but it's because you're twitching so fast with the blade. 300 milligrams of caffeine, sweet Jesus. Oh, same here, Nick. Man, the license is... So I actually, before I fired up the YouTube channel, that was one of the things I was looking at getting into. I grew for a while when you could grow as a caregiver. And then we just recently switched everything over. Let me get that out of the frame. It's distracting. I thought I was going to burp. Maybe I'm not going to burp. Hey, James, have a good night. I just saw that you're taking off. Have a good night, James. It was good talking to you, man. Anyway, I grew for a while, and I looked into doing it here in Michigan under the commercial license. And if I even got a Class A, which is, I think, up to 100 plants, it's not even like one of the big licenses, it was going to cost me like $100,000 by the time you build the facility, put in all the security systems they want, pay for the licensing. Then you have to pay for testing on the finished product, and if it doesn't pass, and if it fails, I think if it fails twice, it's just done. So you can have a whole crop that doesn't pass because of, from what I've been told, they're super strict on heavy metals here in Michigan, and like to the point that it's ridiculous because everything has a small percentage of heavy metals in it. That's like, it's just part of life. And so it's gotten to the point where they were failing people like crazy and nothing was getting through the system. So you could go spend $100,000 starting up your grow, and that's everything you have. This grow has to make it for you to make money, and then you could fail it because of testing on heavy metals, and you're just out. So I ended up getting out of growing. So anyway, yes, I totally hear the expense of converting over. It's astronomical what it takes to, and well, that and the expense that you've got to build the facility out. Like just to build out my room, I was going to build out for, I think I was going to be able to do 50 plants in my room, and on a cheap budget, and I mean cheap, I was at like 15 or 20 grand. So by the time you do lights and cooling and just, ugh. So yeah, I am no longer in the weed growing business. So groundworks, roads, drainage, footings, block pavement. Dang, you cover a lot of stuff, AP. Man. So generally speaking in the US, most of the time if you're doing the roads, the drainage, and excavation, I would say those go together. Your block guys typically are their own little subsect of guys. Your curbing and concrete guys are their own little subsect of guys, and then you have landscapers. Generally here in the US, you don't have a company that's like that diverse in everything. So it does sound like that's yet another example of how you guys just do things differently over there in Britain, which is really interesting. Just the differences in how you guys even think about projects. So, Elliot, I'm telling you, man, it's a big risk, and it is a big investment. If you want to do it legit here in Michigan, it is a big investment. You can get into it illegitimately and make a fair amount of money doing it, but even still, your build out cost is expensive to get into. Because the thing is, it has to be indoors, outdoor, especially here in Michigan. Let me adjust my mic here so I'm not banging it. Here in Michigan, outdoor weed doesn't get nearly the same price that indoor weed does. So you have to grow it indoors if you want to make any money. In order to do that, you have to do lights, you have to do ventilation. Once you do lights and ventilation, that's causing a tremendous amount of heat output. So then you have to get air conditioning to keep the room cool enough for the plants. That's another huge investment. You have to make sure that then you've got to figure out, I say then, first you have to figure out whether you're growing in soil or you're doing hydroponic, because then that's got its whole area of, like, if you're doing hydroponic, you're going to have dehumidifiers, which further add more heat back into the equation. Like, there's so many things that go into it. Like I said, I grew for a while on a small scale, and it is a lot of freaking money. So 2 million square feet of greenhouses, that's crazy, man. Oh, so Nick, you're in the same boat. That's interesting. Plus ground workers, you drive dumpers, rollers, and extra. And you guys cover a lot of territory. Holy crap, man. That's crazy. Yeah, so normally, most of the time, those are all kind of separated out. Like, the companies I've always worked for have been dirt guys. So we just do dirt work. It's not concrete, it's dirt work. And then we got concrete guys that will do your flat work, or they'll do curbing, or they'll do, or you step over into paving companies, and paving companies will do concrete and asphalt paving, but they don't do the curbing. You have a curbing company that will do the curbs, and then you have the mainline pavers that come in and pave with the concrete road base. Landscaping is always here in the States. I've never seen landscaping companies unless they're transitioning into dirt work. And Shifsky is a prime example of that. Carson Shifsky, he's got a channel. It is Carson Shifsky. He's got a channel. They are a landscape company that is transitioning into dirt. That's the only reason they mess around with landscaping. Most of your companies that do real dirt work here in the States don't mess around with landscaping. They sub that out to smaller companies to handle that. Because you think about the machines required to do that range of work. Like, that's a ton of equipment. Versus if you're going to do dirt work, you can just focus on the big machines and let somebody else take care of it with the small machines, the minis, the skid steers, stuff like that. So, bacon, it is a lot of hassle, but there's a reason people are hassling with it, man. There's a lot of money in growing weed. Like, there is a ton of money in the industry. The problem is it's just high risk and it's high inputs. So, typically, you take it to all the civil of the building and the sidewalk curves, finished with landscapes. So, wow, you guys are a full-stop shop. Hey, Alan, thanks for popping in, man. It was good to see you. Congratulations again on how well the channel's growing on your end. I'm excited to see you guys getting back out on some job sites. I know you guys were probably getting antsy too, because it's starting to get in your blood like I told you it would. Oh, AP, 100%. So, for anybody in the chat, if you guys want to send footage over, I will absolutely throw your footage into some. I might do some compilations where I do 2 or 3 of you guys. If you want to send me some footage over, I have no problem highlighting your footage on the channel. I feel weird asking for footage from guys. I think Nick offered a while back too. I feel weird asking for that because obviously for me to put it on my channel to make money off of, I don't want to make my money off of everyone else's back. But at the same time, if you would like to see your footage put on the channel, by all means, I will absolutely throw your footage up there. So, instead of sending them over through Instagram or anything else, let me know if you do want to do that, and I will shoot you my Dropbox link, and you can send me the original file in full quality, and that way I can get it on the channel in full quality and it'll actually look good. Because when you send it over in any of those other programs or apps, it it compresses the video and makes it look like garbage. So by the time it gets on my channel, it looks like total trash because it gets recompressed when I do all of my stuff to it. So yeah, let me know if you wanna do that, AP, and I'll absolutely shoot you my Dropbox link. Elliot, Carson is a solid dude. So I went and spent some time with him last fall. It was kind of right there at the transition from fall to winter. We might have been full on winter because it was right after Thanksgiving. Yeah, that was right after Thanksgiving. I went out and spent a couple days with him, and super nice guy. He and his brother both are really nice guys. I genuinely enjoyed hanging out with those guys. I'm supposedly going back out there sometime in the next month or two. I need to actually get a hold of him again to have that conversation because we both talked about it. He wants to have me out. I want to go back out, but we didn't actually nail down any dates. But that is something that's definitely going to happen. Oh, Nick, you can't beat that when you got a warehouse, massive project that's right down the road from where you're living. That's fantastic. I always loved it when I got job sites that were close to home. The problem is it very rarely happened. I think the closest to home I ever got was 20 minutes. We did a stretch of highway that was 20 minutes down the road. In fact, if you're still in here in the mitten, it was the stretch of 23 headed down to Ann Arbor that we did 5 years ago. Man, has it already been 5 years? 4 years ago? It was relatively recent, but that stretch of 23 was the closest I've ever been to home. Outside of that, I've always had at least 45 minutes. The longest commute I had was an hour and a half. Ended up staying with the in-laws for that time to get it down to a 45-minute commute. So, anyway. Yeah, that would be awesome to kind of give a little bit of insight into what it's like over there in Britain and how different the conditions are. I would love to showcase that. So yeah, send over whatever you want. In fact, I've got my notepad here. I will shoot you a message tomorrow. I'm not going to do it tonight when we get out of here, but tomorrow I will shoot you a message with my Dropbox link. Link to AP. All right, there it is. We're officially on the notepad, AP. Yeah, see, Nick, you're fortunate. I was always driving all over the place, but I was working for a big company, Dan's Excavating here in Michigan. Oh, there you go. And living in Mitten just confirmed Dan's. Yep, that's who I was working for. And Dan's drove you all over the place. In fact, I would say their personnel coordinator, I would say his goal was to make you have a 45-minute drive because you were never under a 45-minute drive at that company. Even if there was a job site 15 minutes from the house, I had to ask to be on the 23 job before I got on it. Otherwise, I was probably going to get sent back over to like Auburn Hills or something. And Nick, yes. Luckily, fortunately for me, I have some very sweet, kind in-laws, and we get along really well. So it wasn't that bad. It wasn't nearly as nice as coming home to their daughter and my family, but it wasn't terrible because I do get along with them pretty well. So it wasn't bad. But yeah, I think I was on that project for like 2 or 3 months, and it was rough because I would pack all my shit up in a bag and head out on Monday morning, and I had to leave an hour and a half earlier than I had to be on the job site. I would get there, work a full day, come back to the in-laws, which was still a 45-minute drive, and I would live there all week, and then Friday I would finish my job, and we generally wrap up, it's typical summertime construction hours, so you're wrapping up at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And then I would drive an hour and a half back home on Friday night so that I could spend a day at home before I drove back. So it wasn't ideal. It was not the best. So how much longer do you have in your apprenticeship, AP? Just out of curiosity, and how do apprenticeships over there work? Could you do a video on soil compaction from when it's so... Ryan, great question. When you say soil compaction, do you mean like the whole process? Do you mean like the actual rolling, like how you should go about rolling it? Or do you mean like going into the like density details? What specifically are you looking for? Because I can absolutely do, like, we could do a video, and it's kind of on my, I have so many freaking video ideas that are kind of on my to-do list out there. But one of my to-dos is to talk about rolling patterns and establishing a rolling pattern and how important that is. But yeah, let me know a little more specifically what you're looking for, and maybe I can put something together here in the next month or so. I feel bad because I've got a bunch of guys asking for different videos, and it's my biggest problem right now is my accessibility to specific pieces of equipment. Like, I could go get on a hoe or a loader or a dozer tomorrow, no problem. But when it comes to like specific stuff like a roller or a backhoe or something really super specific with a laser, those are the videos I kind of have to plan a little more because I don't have super quick access to those pieces of equipment. Oh, AP, that's perfect. I'm totally down for getting some other pieces of equipment on here. I don't, as much as I love Case and I like to highlight Case, I do like Case, but I don't want to become a Case channel. I am in talks with Case to try to do something where they may help me out a little bit, but one of the things I'm going to talk over with them is I do not want to become a Case whore, just because I want to still be credible, and I feel like you lose credibility the second you start sucking up to one particular brand. I like Case. Are they the best at everything? No. And do they have their flaws? Yes, as we've talked about this evening even, they have their flaws. I want to continue to say that, and I don't want anyone kind of holding my hand behind my back saying you're not allowed to say that. So 12, you have to do 20 weeks training at a training center, and then you're out on site for a year and a half doing everything to gain qualification. So is it only overall, is it only a year and a half? Or, because I think here in the States, I think we've got, which, are you a part of, I should ask, are you a part of the International Operators Union? Because that is also what we have here in the States. And I want to say we've got I think it's a 4-year apprenticeship program. So I can't remember what the hours are of classroom to on-site time, but it's a 4-year apprenticeship program. Milwaukee to Madison, how long of a drive is that? Let's take a look at that. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You got to say it right up in your nostrils. Come on, computer. And we're going to, you said Madison, Wisconsin. Oh, that's just over an hour. Okay. All right. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's still not a short drive, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Let's see here. Both would be great. I'd be interested in seeing some different patterns to compare what I like to do, but I'd also like to see the okay. Yeah, Ryan, let me see what I can do on that one. Like I said, rollers are going to be a little more difficult to get my hands on. It's not to say I can't, but it may take a little bit more time. I'm probably, believe it or not, to play into living in Minton, I may have to contact my buddy Mike Z to see if I can get on one of their rollers and talk about different rolling patterns. So stay tuned on that one. So I just read Elliot's comment, and then I immediately read Ryan's, and that is 100% Ryan. That is 100% what flashed through my mind is don't let Frank hear you say that. I'm surprised Frank hadn't popped in yet. I don't think he was here last week either. He pops in a fair amount, but yeah, don't let Frank hear that. I'm 100% with you. I 100% agree that the Mini is way better than a backhoe, but don't let Frank hear you. He'll get all upset. So AP, you guys are 2 years total. That's pretty slick. That ain't a bad apprenticeship right there. Getting in and out of the whole deal in 2 years. That's awesome. Finkel, no. Believe it or not, that's a great question, first of all. But believe it or not, when I was selling equipment, I had a customer that was trying to start his own flat work company. He was incredible at it. And I'm not just saying that because, well, I have no reason to say it. I don't talk to him anymore, so I have no reason to build him up. But I actually went to his house where he was doing all of his concrete work as a showcase of his craftsmanship. And he did, like, no joke, incredible flat work. And the things he could do with concrete were just amazing. So he was going to go into business for himself. He ended up shutting the whole thing down after like 8 months to a year of not being able to find consistent help that was willing to work and didn't insist on being paid cash under the table. Like, that's just the lay of the land right now. He couldn't find anybody. So he is now... I don't know what he's doing now, but the last I had talked to him, he was talking about going back to work for a company, even though he had everything he needed outside of manpower to do it all himself. So, yeah, no, that's the sad state of the industry right now. So, Elliot, oh yeah, Frank will come. I love Frank because he'll get in here and he'll give as much shit as everybody gives him. So, he's hilarious to get in here. But he will 100% defend that backhoe to the death. One of these days, mark my words, one of these days I'm going down there and we're doing a dig off. We will do it. I just got to get some cash in the bank. See, Nathan, that would have been super nice with Dan's to be able to do the 410s. Unfortunately, we were working like 612s. So when I drove home, like home, I got to be home for a day. Like, that was a shitty, really shitty work season. Luckily, I was only out there for 2 or 3 months. It wasn't the full season before I got switched to another job. But, man, that was brutal. I wish they would have done 4 days a week. Ooh, there it was. Excuse me. Elliot, 100%. That's what I've always said about backhoes, is that whole jack of all trades, master of none. That is the perfect phrase to summarize a backhoe. It has its place. If you have to take one piece of equipment that can carry material and dig trenches, you can't beat a backhoe. Now, if you want to do precision work and you want to have like productivity out of a machine, a backhoe is not it. You will run circles around a backhoe with excuse me, even a mid-size Mini and a mid-size CTL, you will run circles around a backhoe. But you're hauling 2 pieces of equipment at that point. So I can see both sides of it, but I'm with you. I hate backhoes. Hate them. So... yeah, Ryan, I'm telling you, we got to set a date, buddy. It's going to take me getting a little more cash in the travel account is ultimately what we're going for here. Because I've got to not only have the cash to cover my travel, I have to have the cash to cover a mini rental. Because you know, sure as hell, Frank is not going to rent a mini excavator. So I've got to cover the rental cost of a mini excavator so that we can get them both on site. But no, even if it doesn't happen this year, I promise you, I 100% intend to go to Oklahoma and do a dig off with Frank. It's going to be good. So, Deere 624L or a Cat 938M? I don't know, Nick. The honest truth there is I have not spent a ton of time in Deere loaders. I have spent probably 10 to 15 minutes in a Deere loader. At one of our trainings we did, they brought in a Deere. I'll let you guys see what I'm doing here so you don't think I'm just being weird off screen. It was one of our trainings with Case that they brought in a Deere loader, and I spent maybe 10 or 15 minutes in the seat really driving it. I will say this, I was impressed with the Deere. It had a fair amount of power, and I liked the comfort of the cab. But one of the biggest points that the Case guys brought up that I do 100% agree with is, in order to get full access to the engine compartment on that loader, I think you had to open like 9 panels on the back of it, which is ridiculous to design a machine that way, especially when you are having to access that area of the machine somewhat frequently for oil changes and everything, and just regular service. It was outrageous. But I was impressed with the loader, but I don't have enough seat time to genuinely sit here and say, oh yeah, I'd pick one over the other. That, and I don't know that I've been in one of the new M Series loaders, one of the new M Series cat loaders, which, by the way, totally just reminded me, my farmer buddy that you guys have seen the videos of me putting down millings for him, and he's the guy I was doing drain tile with before I went to Ohio. He just got a brand new next gen 316 excavator. He called me the other night because he knew I would be interested and want to get some seat time in that. So hopefully here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I will be getting in one of the brand spank, and this thing still has plastic on the seat, brand new 316 next gen excavators. And I will put that thing through its paces, and I am going to go through and actually play with the 2D grade system on it. We'll get into the 360 camera. I do want to play with the different programmable buttons, and since like I'm really going to dial this thing in and play in it. So stay tuned on that. I totally forgot about telling you guys about that, but I am super excited. AP, whatever you can do, awesome. And if nothing happens and it never comes to fruition, dude, no hard feelings. I totally understand. It's not that big of a deal. So I am grateful and appreciative for whatever I get on this end. Richie, I hope I didn't miss you before you took off. You as well. Thanks for popping in, man. I appreciate it. You guys have a good Easter. And just to remind everybody, if there are people watching that haven't heard from the beginning, we will not be doing a live stream next week because of Easter and because there's a decent chance I will be on the road. So between those two things, we're going to skip the live stream next week. Nick, I will agree. When you watch, so there's been 2 people in my life that I have watched make a backhoe absolutely sing. One was when I was living in Idaho. We had this guy living down the road from us that he had his own little excavating company, and they had a skip loader, a backhoe, and he had his dump truck. I don't even think he had a dozer, in all honesty. No, he did. He had an old school, like D7, old school, like the one that you'd walk up to it and you smell the grease like 50 feet before you're even to the machine. That was his dozer. So it wasn't even like it was a manageable machine to get around. That guy was an artist on a freaking backhoe. And then Frank is about the only other guy I've ever seen that level. And those 2 guys, 100% make it sing. Outside of that, backhoes are terrible. Let's see here. See, Elliot's going for the cat, and I don't disagree. But I will say this. I was really impressed with that deer. I need more seat time in it before I can really make a true opinion, though. I just don't have enough time in the seat of the deer. Which, by the way, I was when I was in Ohio, Taylor has a 333G, which is Deere CTL. I was really impressed with that. So I've not been a fan from the outside of looking at those machines. I've never been a fan of them because I thought the visibility looked like it was going to be garbage. They're built like tanks. I will 100% say that. But the visibility looks like it was absolutely garbage out of those machines. Once I actually got in it and ran it, that was a really, really well-balanced machine. The cab was really comfortable. Mind you, you had to use the backup camera because you couldn't see crap behind you. But you actually had decent visibility with the backup camera. Overall, I was really impressed with that machine. So, let's see here. Yeah, Nick, I'm with you. Like, I spent a whole season in a backhoe, and I still would not call myself a good backhoe operator. Give me pilot controls, and I can at least be dangerous. But those wobble sticks, that was my biggest issue with the backhoe I was stuck in, is they had the freaking wobble sticks, and you cannot do precision work with wobble sticks. I'm sorry, but they are just garbage. There's just way too much throw in them to really be accurate. And then the biggest thing I have against backhoes is the visibility issue. You have the boom right in front of you, so you're always trying to look over to the side and lean around to get an angle to see what you're doing, and just not a fan. Oh, let's see here. So, Bacon, I will say this about a CTL mounted backhoe. There are multiple options there. None of them are great. In fact, I would say none of them are good. You can get mediocre options, but none of them are good. You can buy the cheap option, which is, I don't even remember what they call it. But basically it is a skid plate with a stick welded on, and your auxiliaries curl the bucket on the end of the stick. So your actual stick end function is you curling what would be the bucket of the skid steer, and then you use your auxiliaries to actually curl the bucket on the end of the stick. That's the cheaper option. It's absolute garbage. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Then you step up to the legit, like, it looks like the attachment that would go on a trencher. So you mount up to the skid plate, and you've got a full set of outriggers, and then you have a seat outside of the machine with the backhoe controls on it, so that you can run the backhoe from outside of the skid steer. The problem with any of those machines is you have no reach. Like, that's the whole advantage of a full-size machine, like a full-size backhoe or an excavator, is the reach. You have no reach, and so you can take like 3 pulls with your skid steer backhoe, and then you got to climb off of it. You got to get back in the CTL. You got to pull your outriggers up and everything. You got to get back in the CTL. You got to back yourself up. Then you got to get back out of the CTL. You got to put your outriggers back down, and then you're ready to dig again. Like, I see very, very, very few applications where that's legit gonna work, I guess. And they're expensive as crap. Like, that option was like a $20,000 attachment. Why the F would you pay $20,000 for a shitty backhoe attachment when you could spend a little bit more money? And, you know, if you're at 20 grand there, for another 10-ish to 15 grand, you could buy a really nice used Mini and get way more reach, way more lift capacity, way more versatility. You got a much smaller footprint than you do with the CTL with this backhoe attachment on it. Like, all the way around, way better off than using the skid steer backhoe, which is why you never see those attachments sold. So, DeMitten, now you've got me eager to sit in the seat of a 938M, because I have not been in one yet, and I love the 938K. So, oh, Finkel, I think I missed you already, but if I didn't, good to see you, man. But I think I already missed you. I'm looking forward to running that 316, but now you got me excited about that 938. AP, I did. Shockingly enough, I know this is going to blow everybody away because it was a Korean machine, and heaven forbid you say you like a Korean machine in the United States, but I love that Doosan. In the beginning, and you'll see this when I start posting those vlogs, in the beginning it was so freaking sensitive, and it is so fast. It made me look like I was a rookie operator, which was a little embarrassing, I'm not going to lie. But that being said, after 3 or 4 days of being in the seat and getting used to how responsive those controls were, that thing swung around like nobody's business. It was so freaking fast. It was like running a mini excavator almost. So I was a huge fan of the Doosan. There were 2 things about the machine that I really hated. One's pretty minor, and that was the placement of the radio. I was not a fan of that. The second, which is the big thing, is it needed about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds more counterweight on it. He had it equipped with a quick coupler and a thumb, and I wouldn't call it tippy. Like, it wasn't to the point where I'd throw the stick out there and I was going to tip forward. It was more just the machine wasn't balanced, and so it would buck a lot all the time. And you'll see it in the video. My GoPro really stabilizes that footage, so you don't really get as much as it's bucking. And it's really, my eye is kind of trained to read the GoPro because I use it all the time and I know what's really going on. But if you watch in that GoPro, you're going to see the camera doing this a lot during that video. And that's because the machine's physically bucking back and forth while I was using it. And it just boils down to it needs a little bit more counterweight. But that being said, if he threw some plate steel on the bottom of that existing counterweight, bolted it up to it to give it that extra 1,000 to 1,500 pounds, dude, that thing would be a beast. Like, no joke, would be a beast. So I was really impressed with the Doosan. So, let's see here. Deer and cat are almost neck and neck as far as loaders, in my opinion. You got a lot of seat time in 972. Yeah, 972 was a good loader too. Like, no joke, that one had some balls and some ass. It was a good machine. See, I just need to get in some of these next gen machines, and that's the one downside to not being an operator in a company anymore, is I don't get to sit in all the latest greatest. And my channel is still small enough. No one's really volunteering to let me try their new stuff to talk about it. So Cat really hasn't been too keen on me going out and running those machines just to run them yet. So we'll get there. Michael, yes. Hey man, one quick question. Have you ever operated a case backhoe and enjoyed it or no? I'm actually in school for heavy equipment. I already hate it. Oh, so there's your problem, Michael. So you're in what we call a foot swing machine. That is the old school backhoe controls. Believe it or not, there are still guys that swear up and down by those controls. When you order a Case backhoe from Case, I used to sell for Case if you weren't familiar with that, in the price book, it comes standard still to this day as a callback. It still comes with foot swing controls. You have to pay to put the pilot control system or even wobble sticks on it, believe it or not. So I totally hear you that you hate running the 3 sticks, but that being said, I do like running Case backhoes. The primary reason I like Case over all the other competitors is, if you're familiar, which you are, you have to do that funky little back and forth with your boom in order to get it to go into the stored position on the backhoe. And I can't tell you the number of times as a salesman I was asked, when are you guys going to finally do away with that? And the answer is never. The reason is, if you look at a Case backhoe, so let's compare. So let's say this is the cab of my Cat backhoe, and this is the boom sticking off the back. Cat and Deer, you're going to notice their booms sit at a backward facing angle away from the cab. But if you look at a Case machine, it actually tilts forward towards the cab. And that's the reason you have to do that little flick with your boom lever, is because you're taking this boom cylinder right here and you're actually getting it past top dead center, and then you're having to store it. What that does is it transfers about 20% of the weight of that rear boom stick bucket. It transfers about 20% of that weight over the rear axle, and that is why Case backhoes rode so well, and that's why Case will never do away with that. That is one of their biggest features on their backhoes. So that being said, yes, I do enjoy running Case backhoes as much as one can enjoy running a backhoe. There's my caveat. As much as one can enjoy running a backhoe, I do enjoy running Case backhoes. Absolutely hate Cat backhoes because of the balance. Those things will bounce the snot out of you down the road. I will say they do have a lot of digging power. Case also has digging power, but because of the boom geometry, a Cat is going to be able to dig further underneath the machine. So when you get into some area that you're trying to close out a trench without having to actually scoot forward, or you can't scoot forward, a Cat will be able to dig further under the cab because of the boom geometry, because of that angled boom, versus the Case has a straight boom on it. But yeah, good machines. They're good machines, but 3 sticks, you can put me on a 4 or a, aren't they 4 stick? I think it's 4 stick. You've got boom, stick, bucket, and extend-a-hoe, I believe, are your 4 sticks on that machine. Or no, yeah, because then your foot controls are swing. But yeah, that's part of the problem, is you're running an old foot swing control. So, Finkel 305, yes. Hey, there you go, Chris. How long do you have left in your program? And congratulations, you're in New Brunswick, I see. Congratulations on that. How long do you have left on your program? Jake, to answer your question, how long should you stay in the union? At least 5 years. That way you're vested. That's all I can tell you. I got out of it right before I was vested. I don't necessarily regret it because of where I was in my career and the options that were open to me. Staying in another 8 months would have made me miss out on that opportunity, which has since led me to where I am today. So for that reason, I don't regret it. But at the same time, it would have been nice to have actually been vested with my pension. So at least 5 years. Outside of that, staying as long as do the full career in the union. You're making better wages in the union for the most part. You've got access to the training fund. You've got access to the pension. You've got access to the great health care. Why leave, I guess would be my question. So, AP, that is an out of nowhere question. I will 100% agree with that. I have seen both used on job sites. So let me give you a big caveat here. I was never a laborer when it came to using the cutoff saws. But that being said, I worked for a company that used both, and all of the laborers around here told me that Stihl absolutely beat Husqvarna hands down. No one liked the Husqvarnas. I don't have any dog in the hunt. I don't care either way. I'm just relaying what I was told by the laborers on the job. So that's all I have to say about that. So, yeah, Nathan. So kind of jumping back into where we were at there with the backhoe attachment. Yeah, 100%. A Mini is so far above and beyond any attachment you can throw on that skid steer when it comes to digging a trench. I will say you can get the trencher attachments like an actual chain trencher or a rock saw. Okay, now we're talking a whole different animal. But when it comes to digging a trench, you'll never compete with a mini excavator when you throw a skid steer attachment on. So, Jake, first of all, absolutely anything I can do to help you out, don't ever hesitate to ask questions. Shoot me email. There's a reason I put my email out here publicly. Use it. I'm here to give advice. You have any idea what I should be do during and after this planned internship? I have at the end. So let's go into a little more details, Jake, on what your internship is, where it's at, what are you doing, and that will kind of give me some direction on where I can possibly send you. So because my main question would be, is your internship like in the office at whatever company you're working for, or are you going to be out in the field? Are you going to be laboring? Are they going to give you some seat time? Kind of give me a little background to go off of. We'll absolutely talk through this. Hey, Rick, what's happening, everybody? So Rick, that's Rick from my videos. Rick Valco there. What's happening? He just got back from a vacation down in what? Tennessee? Was it Tennessee, Rick? I don't remember where you were at. Oh, yeah. Living in the mitten? Yes, I've done that a couple times. It's infrequent that I do it, but yes, every once in a while it happens. I will say, okay, so here's a quick side story where I made a total ass of myself, and you guys get the backstage pass to it. So when I was selling equipment, one of the things I had to do was go appraise older machines to see, what we would give them in trade. And every single time you went out on an appraisal, when you had an older backhoe, it was sloppy and loose. And so I had gotten it down to a science to where I could just do a nice little wrist flick with the boom, with my boom stick here, and I could store that boom without banging the machine. And everyone that's familiar with Case is familiar that the first handful, probably dozen times you store that boom, you slam the piss out of that machine. And so I had gotten this thing down to a science where with an older machine that had some slop, I could just very gently lay that boom right up against the machine. It wouldn't even bang. So I go out to appraise a drain tile guy. He's wanting to trade in his like 2014 Case 580 Super M. And we go out there, and his shop is like a collector's classic car shop. Like the floor is epoxied, his drain tile machine, the windows are tinted, They are in the process of touching up the paint job, even though it looks like it's brand new. They have just, this machine is immaculate. The backhoe, even though it was a 2014, and I don't even remember, I think it had like 3,500 or 4,500 hours on it, looked brand new, like it was sitting in a showroom. Windows tinted, the whole interior was spotless. Like, unbelievable how nice this thing was. So I get into it and I start doing my appraisal, and one of the things you do is you make sure all of the functions work. So I put the outriggers down. He's got that nice epoxy concrete floor, just to remind you. Put the outriggers down, and I don't even touch the floor with them because I don't need to. I'm just making sure everything works. I put the boom out, put the stick, extend hoe, all of it. And then I go to store that boom, and I go do my little wrist flick. And this thing was so freaking tight. One advantage, by the way, of Case backhoes is instead of having to line bore the rear of the machine when it gets all sloppy and loose, they have pins and they have bushings that you can pop out, and you can rebush the whole back end. Costs you about $7,000, I think, but to line bore the rear end of a backhoe costs you about $20. So while it is expensive, it's far cheaper than line boring. All that to say, this guy had replaced all of the bushings on this machine and pins. This thing was as tight as a new machine. And so I get in this thing and I do my little wrist flick, and I don't get it. It's so tight. I didn't get the boom stored, and instead I slammed the fuck out of the bucket, the front bucket, on his nice concrete floor. And I looked over and I was like, I am so sorry. I said, I have never, ever had a problem storing the boom on a used machine before. I said, I was so embarrassed because I slammed the piss out of his floor. And he was not happy. He did not ultimately end up buying from us, and I kind of wonder if that's what contributed to it. So, not one of my finer moments, but a story nonetheless. So, let's see here. 21-week program, heavy equipment and trucking. Hey, Chris, that sounds like a great program. They're getting so you're getting your truck endorsement with the air brake, or your CDL with the air brake endorsement, plus 9 weeks for heavy equipment. That's awesome. 1 week in class. That's a hell of a program. Where is that program located, Chris? Because that sounds like a legit, if I was going to send anyone to a school, that's the kind of school I would send them to, where you come out with real certifications and you come out with real seat time. That's rare. Bacon. So if you could only have one machine and pull it behind a truck, loader, backhoe mini, pull it behind a truck, loader, backhoe mini, or CTL. So if you could only have one machine, I'm kind of dipping down here a little bit to kind of confirm what Rick was saying. If you could only have one machine, I would say probably a CTL because of its versatility. You can throw so many stinking attachments on that thing, you can do just about anything you want to do with it. If you can get away with two machines, I would say a mini and a mini and a CTL. But if you had to pick one, the CTL. Upstate New York, graduating from heavy equipment trade school, 18 years old. So they gave you a list of companies to work for, a trial for a week. So I have to pick one and potentially we'll get a job. So if they're going to send you out in the field, Jake, I would say, first of all, go to Glassdoor and a couple other of those sites. Do some homework on the company. There is no problem, too, with actually calling the office. Don't tell them who you are. Just act like you're a new hire, or not even a new hire, an applicant, and ask them what kind of hours they work, what kind of work they do, what their work schedule typically looks like, as far as, is there an off season? Get some details on the companies before you go make that decision. That's one advantage that you have coming into the industry now of all times, is you have the ability to kind of choose your company instead of the old school days where it was like you just got stuck with whatever company picked you. So do some homework on the companies before you actually go to them. And then once you spend a week out there in the field, from there, absolutely see if you can hire on with them. And you're just coming out of school. Don't be afraid. Don't shy away from being on the end of a shovel. And even if it's for a year, Even though you've got school, there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to get even more education being on the end of that shovel. And then stick it out, and you could have, in all honesty, you could have a really great career at that company working your way up. You know, is that 5 years you're a foreman? Possibly. Is it maybe 6 or 7 years you fall into a superintendent position? It all depends on what you have in you as far as your work ethic, your knowledge, your ability to learn. Like, the sky's the limit. And worst comes to worst, you work there for a year or two, and then you know, go on down the road to a different company. So that would be kind of the workflow from where you're at right now. Nick, that's a good question. I've got to think about that one. Dang, that's a good question. Oh, man. Dang, that's a stumper. I got to think about that one. Because I know I did some pretty big goofs when I was first learning at my residential company. But none of them were like horrendous, atrocious ones. I will say one of my biggest rookie mistakes, I will say one of my most embarrassing ones. It probably wasn't the biggest F up in the world, like in the grand scheme of things, but one of my most embarrassing ones was when I first went over to the civil side working for Dan's. Totally green to road construction. I have no idea what's going on. And my job was to run a roller behind a dozer that was doing the subgrade. And we had just gotten a lot of rain. And so the dozer operator told me, you know, you're just going to chase me. You're going to make sure we get compaction. I have no idea what it takes to get compaction, even like how many times I'm supposed to roll this stuff. I have no idea what's going on. And so he dozes out this whole area, and there's water pockets in through the whole thing. I didn't even think about the fact that you should avoid the water pockets. My thought was I'll just roll them out and kind of get the water out of there. Well, instead what happens is you take that beautiful finish grade that he had put down on that subgrade, and I rutted the piss out of it. I did. And he's like, as I'm going through the puddle, I look up and he's like doing this on his dozer, and I knew I effed up at that point. So I pulled back away from the puddle. Lucky for me, he was a super understanding guy. He comes over and he goes, dude, you can't F up finish grade, man. You can't go through a puddle and just, like, you've lowered that by like 3/10 now, and I've got to regrade that. Just go around the water holes. And I was just like, I didn't even think about that, you know, like, that didn't occur to me. Like, so again, not the biggest F up in the world, didn't cost a ton of money or anything, but at the end of the day, it was pretty embarrassing. Another time, I was running a dozer, and we had a bunch of gravel trains. We had one lane that was existing road, and everything off to, we'll call it the left-hand side, had already been pulled, and it was down to subgrade. So there was like a 2.5 foot drop off. And I was running a dozer, and my job was these trains were dumping their loads of sand that was going to go down in the hole, and I had to push it off to clear the road so that the gravel trains could keep coming, because this was the only road through the job site, was this one lane that our gravel trains were dumping on. And this one particular gravel train ended up getting himself in a position to where he couldn't move, and the pile was around the backside of the truck. And so I angled my blade all the way over, and I went to go sneak by him, and I had it by a ½ inch, except that last little ½ inch just caught the rim of one of his wheels and popped his tire. And so my foreman came over and bitched at me pretty hard for effing up that, because we had to pay for the rim on the truck. In the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that big of a deal, but that was another one where it was like, so didn't make the day. So anyway, let's see here. Yeah, Michael, it F's with you every time you go to store that boom. You know, having to boom down when it should be booming up messes with your mind every time. But that being said, once you get the hang of it, it literally becomes such a nonchalant little flick of the wrist that, like I said, brand new machines, you can't hardly do it without banging the boom. It's just, there's no getting around it. But if you're just even the slightest bit out with a little bit of slop, I can set that thing back now with no problem, almost like it's on rubber cushions. So it just takes time. So, and absolutely on the advice and help, dude, anything I can do to make life easier. Hey, Taylor. So Taylor Abe, that is the Taylor I was just working with down in Ohio. What's happening, brother? Let me know if you want me to come see you not this week, but the following week. Let me know if we can set something up, because I do need to book hotels here pretty quick. So Chris, going back to you. Yeah, that sounds like a great program, man. That is a fantastic program. Atlantic Transport Academy. That's awesome. Hey, Nick, thanks for hanging out, brother. Appreciate it, man. We'll see you in 2 weeks, because we're not doing next week. Remember that. AP, I'm still waiting for the revelation, man. I haven't had it yet. And to go to Taylor, Taylor, I luckily have not. I'm trying to think now. I don't think I have, and I'm gonna regret saying this. I'm gonna knock on the desk hardcore here. I have not hit any real utilities that have been my fault. I've hit some, utilities that were unmarked and no one's responsibility and stuff like that, but I have yet to hit anything of true consequence. So, yeah. Rick, I worked with one of those guys. I worked with this guy. We called him Captain Awesome, because he would always screw up, and he would just stand there and be like, awesome. Like, that was his response, is to just say awesome. Even though he just caused like $4,000 worth of damage, or he just hit a gas line or whatever, he'd just stand there and be like, awesome. I watched that guy back into the side of a house, and like Rick just said, like, this is literally had just been bricked over, and he just knocks out like a 10-foot stretch of brick. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, it's a house, man. How could you miss the house? It's a house. He backed right into it, grazed along the side of it, and then came away from it. And then he tried to fix his mistake and actually knocked out a couple more brick. And it's like, dude, you are an idiot. So, Ryan, 100%, no one over here likes JCB. AP keeps trying to push it. He's like, I wouldn't surprise me if he's wearing a little cheerleader outfit right now with JCB across the front, because that's every time. Every time. Yeah, see, that's the problem. You're talking in a group of North Americans here, AP. We aren't British. We don't need a tea dispenser over here off of our left, and a little kettle warmer over here on our right, and a little biscuit dispenser here on the side beside the steering wheel. We don't run like that. We run the piss out of our equipment here in the States, and JCB just doesn't hack it. I'm sorry, AP. So, and Ryan, I 100%, and I have actually said this, I want to say it was in one of my live streams, that is my 100% feelings towards JCB. They have got some really innovative stuff. Like, they are doing some really cool stuff with equipment that other manufacturers should pick up on. But they don't execute it well. Like the mono boom, I think that's a great idea. Like being able to get in the cab the way that you do, the telescoping skid steer boom, that's a great idea, great concept. But part of me wonders if the reason no one else is picking it up is because at the end of the day, the practice of doing those things proves to not be worth it. Like I said, with those mono booms, I went to a steel mill, and they literally had cracked the coupler plate multiple times and had to re-weld it. And then on the side that was supporting the mono boom, this was a wheeled skid steer, the rear wheel from the weight of that mono boom had actually cracked and peeled away from the frame. This was their third time bending it back into place and re-welding the frame of the machine in order to get that wheel to stay. So Oh, AP shots fired. Wow. Whew, that one stung a little bit. Wow. That's right, Ryan. Low blow, low blow. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's calm it down. No need to get nasty here. That's right, Elliot. We need a Coors Light case somewhere over here in the side of the cab, and it needs to hold at least a 12 pack, if not a 24, and they ought to be the 18 ounces. Is it 18 or 16 ounce that Coors puts out? I just call them the big chugs. My brother-in-law gets them. He's got some gas station that he's talked into getting them for him, and he gets the big chugs. All right, Michael, sounds good, man. Have a good evening, and absolutely ask away. Don't be afraid to contact me. Appreciate it. Ryan, 100%. That's the North American motto right there. And Taylor, god dang it, that phrase just drives me insane. I know everyone throws around, joking around, but it's like, God, can't afford something else. My real beef with that one actually is with Case, because they have done jack crap to combat that whole mentality. Like, we were on them so hard when I was selling for them. You've got to do something different with marketing. You've got to put your name back out there and get away from this mentality. Ooh, whiskey caught up with me there. You got to get away from this mentality that it's like the cheaper off-brand of equipment, because like legit, they've got some really good equipment, but they have the mentality of they're the off-brand. So it is what it is. So AP 100%, man. That's the community I want to build here, where we can all rag on each other. Like I said, when Frank shows up, we'll all give him shit about backhoes, and everyone knows that it's all laughing and joking and no one's serious, because, you know, at the end of the day, we're a bunch of children playing with Tonka toys. So how serious can you actually be? Elliot, 100%. If you want anything upgraded from Cat, it's going to cost you probably $2,000 plus your firstborn. So be prepared to make that kind of a commitment. Cat, they love their stuff, don't they? So Taylor, did you guys, kind of coming back to Taylor's who I was working with in Ohio, did you guys wrap that job up, and is the wheel trencher back up and running? So right after I left town, I got a call from Taylor that he had the main gearbox coming off of the back of the motor that drives all the pumps. It's a Planetary, and he had one of the gears in that grenade itself while he was running. So sounds like that's going to be an expensive fix, and I'm afraid of that. Ryan, 100%, we can do that. We'll just, we ought to just do a brand roast. We can just, we'll put a fake emblem up in the chair, and they can sit there, and we'll all just rag on whatever the emblem is for that night. So that'd be a good idea. So 270T, I don't even know what, so that's how unfamiliar I am, Wayne, is I don't even know what a 270T is. I'm going to flip you guys over to my browser here so you guys can see it with me. Let's go look up this beast. Compact, oh, okay, so that's probably one of those mono boom compact track loaders. Yeah. So that's the problem with those mono booms. Is that the one that it telescopes? Let's see here. I don't see anything about telescoping on this. But yeah, like, look at the visibility. Like, that's another thing they do extremely well is visibility. Yeah, I don't see anything on the telescoping on this one. But that being said, the mono boom is a great idea in theory. In practice, it has not fared too well in hard applications. I should say that farmers absolutely love those machines, but they're also not working the dog snot out of them. They're not lifting. Let's be honest, as operators, we lift more than we should in these machines. But that being said, the manufacturers know that they should build the machines for that. And that's one thing that JCB doesn't do, is they don't over-engineer the machine. Like, we always bragged in Case that our machine would lift itself off of the ground when you went to curl into something. Like, that's how much power the bucket curl cylinders had. Case recognized that and engineered the machine that you could do that. Is it good for it? No, everyone recognizes that, but it's also not going to fall to pieces when you do that. And that's my experience with JCB, is the second you push it outside of its parameters that it was built for, it starts falling apart really quick. So anyway, engine is pulled out in the middle of the field. That's rough. So how long is it going to take you to get that machine back together, Taylor? And how much longer do you guys have on that? Are you still on that job that I was helping you on, or have you moved forward? Nathan, seen a guy lift the corner of a house roof and moved it with the boom of backhoe while he was using the front end bucket. Job foreman seen it rotate machine. That's Ryan, John Deere is the same way. Since we're just ragging on guys now, at this point we're just ragging on brands. John Deere is so effing proud of their equipment. They're almost up there with Cat in how proud they are of their machines and how much more they put on the sticker price because of it. Yeah. Wayne, get out of here. Everybody, see, that's why Case won't even be a roast, because everyone's just going to say the things that they already say to me on a day-to-day basis. So I have thick Case skin because I've dealt with all of it already. But we'll roast them. We'll roast Case. Wayne, I have not looked at the X series. Or no, AP said that. What is the X series? All right, let's go back to the browsers. Oops. I don't want to go there. JCBX series. Let's go here. We'll see what happens. Oh, are these their new excavators? Ah, okay. So if you guys are familiar with Taylor over there at Ken White Construction, I think he demoed one of these. And I'm not going to lie, I judged him a little bit for it because it was a JCB, but he really had some good things to say about it, which is part of the reason I judged him for it. But if this is going to be, I mean, if they've really revamped their machines, I would be willing to, I will say this, as much as I rag on everybody, I will give anyone an honest shot. So, you know, if JCB, looking at you guys, wants to hook me up with a machine for a couple days, I will give it an honest run through. Same with the Doosan. The Doosan was one I totally, as soon as I saw Taylor had a Doosan, I was like, oh, go, okay. But I loved it. I absolutely love that machine. I was super thrilled with it, with the exception of the counterweight. Excuse me, pardon me. So I will give anyone an honest shot and an honest review, but I'm gonna put the machine through its paces, and I'm gonna push it, and I'm gonna make it, you know, try to get to its limits and figure out what it's gonna do at those limits and if it can handle it. So, so AP, we haven't written you off totally yet. I'm still about 85% though, just because of my dealings with other JCB products. Yeah, Bacon, you can say that, but what I would counter, you know, to kind of come to JCB's defense is you're going to be in the same situation with anybody else's machine in that carry position, except it's on both sides, versus with the mono boom, it's only going to be on your right side. So you at least have full visibility off your left side, which is 50% more than you would have in anybody else's machine. So I can see, yeah, I would still give them credit there. Oh, still 20,000 feet. So, dude, are you, Taylor, you still think you'll be on that job when I come back up there week after next? Because if that's the case, I'll absolutely come back out there and help you guys on that job. So, Elliot, I don't know about that. I think Volvo, I don't know about that one. That one, I'm pretty confident Volvo is their own beast, as is JCB. And part of what makes me think that is the things that JCB is doing with their machines are really innovative and out there, and Volvo isn't. I mean, not that they're doing anything wrong. They're just not being super innovative. They're just building excavators. So, I don't know. AP, the dark side. Dude, you're the one living in the dark. You're like the one stormtrooper in here that's trying to convert all of us over. Like, that's, come on now. That is true. I think Volvo does put out a mono boom now that I think about it, don't they? But I'm not convinced that they're the same company or they share anything in common. Yeah, I don't know on that one, honestly, guys. Someone that is more educated than me needs to answer that one, because I honestly don't know. Dang, we got 19 of us on here. That's ain't too bad, guys. Ain't too bad. Yeah, I'll hand that to you, Bacon. It is thicker than a lot of duals, but again, so again, you've got where are you carrying? So if you're carrying it at eye level, yeah, it's probably going to interfere, but who in a skid steer carries at eye level? Most guys are carrying closer to the ground anyway in the carry position. And then again, you've only got that block on your right side. Your left side's still totally exposed, totally open. So I don't want to discount it. I'm not coming to JCB's total 100% defense, but of all of the arguments to make, that one seems a little thin to me is all I'm saying. So yeah, Nathan, exactly. That was exactly what the steel mill that I dealt with had a problem with. Is it put too much torque on the machine, and it was causing cracking. Like I said, the two failure points were the skid plate where the bucket actually attached, and then the rear right wheel where all of that weight was coming down on the machine. It actually peeled away. I've never seen that before on a skid steer. It physically peeled. Like, it's not even like the bolts broke free on the motor powering the wheel. Literally, the plate, the steel plate, broke free and peeled away from the rest of the machine. And they had to bend that back into place and weld. It was like a, I don't know, probably a 1 foot diameter circle back into place to get this thing back in working order. So I had never seen that before. So Justin, that's a good point. Yeah. Chris probably wouldn't have anything to do with them if they were associated with JCB. Yeah, Volvo, that's what I remembered, Nathan. I thought they had a mono boom. That's right, Rick. If you keep me out of them, your machines are guaranteed to last longer because I don't go and rag on them. So, that being said, I haven't caused too many problems in your skid rig. And I've spent some decent seat time in them. Ooh, Wayne, that really sends a visual. It really does. Like, I have a good feel for what you were going for there. That's true, Ryan. Chris is all about Volvo. So, and it's really got me curious. Like, I do want to run a Volvo machine. To this day, I have not run a Volvo hoe at all. And or a loader for that matter. And I do want to get some seat time in both of those machines, especially the loaders. A ton of guys just truly rant on those machines. But even their hoes, I am really curious about. The only time I've ever heard anything negative about Volvo excavators is coming from mechanics, which is why I have traditionally formed kind of a negative opinion about them is because generally your mechanics are more inclined to know about the inner workings of the machine than the operator. But operators love Volvo hose, so I do need to get some seat time in one at some point in time. So Taylor is clearly not a fan of the Kobelco machines. I'm not a fan of them, not from the recycled tin can aspect. I've never felt like their cabs were as nice as the other machines, and I always felt like they were a little slow. I will say they're super powerful, so in my mind it's always felt like Komatsu has traded speed for power. So you've got a lot of breakout force and a lot of digging force, but they swing slower. All of the movements seem to be a little slower in them. That being said, it's been 5 years or so since I've ran a Komatsu, so I can't really give you accurate, up-to-date information, but that was what I kind of noticed when I was running, the PC 490, I think is what we were running. So anyway, I've never been a huge fan of the Komatsu hose. The Komatsu loaders, I enjoyed it. It was a nice machine. I didn't think the cab was nearly as polished, and it didn't have nearly as much room as the Cat or the Case. And so just overall, I haven't been super impressed with Komatsu's outside of their dozers. Their dozers, if you're unfamiliar, they have taken the whole cooling package and moved it to the back of the machine. So what they've done is you have a super, super small front profile on the machine. So nobody has the visibility in a dozer like Komatsu does. And they're balanced really well. At least in my opinion, they were, to where they pushed really well and you had really great visibility. Now, if you had any issues with a coolant line or a hydraulic line leaking, you had to pretty much take the cab off the machine to get it fixed. That's the one downside to that. So, anyway. Yeah, I hear you, Bacon. I hear you. Taylor, is that a little bit of a dig at the fact that I may or may not have doused your brand new machine with a bucket full of mud? Is that what we're referring to there? That was a nice cab on that machine. It was, until I got a hold of it. But I got her shined up for you. Yeah, Rick, great point. DEF fluid has killed so many things. Actually, let's take that a step further. Emissions packages, period, have killed so many things. Like, nothing has balls anymore because of the emissions. It's kind of infuriating. So Wayne, 100%. That's very true. That's hard about this industry because so many experiences are purely anecdotal. There's nothing to back them up. When you actually start digging into like breakout forces and swing forces and I can't even think of the other terms that we would use. I can't even think of the amount of power that you can pull. Anyway, without breaking into that stuff, you are really just totally 100% anecdotal, and that is 100% based off of the bias of the guy that sits in the seat. So I do 100% agree there. So AP, they bought it off. They've paid money to some of these companies that put out these rankings, and I don't even know what rankings you're looking at. You're looking at British rankings, and that's cheating because you're in Britain. I mean, no one outside of Britain likes JCB, so yeah, Ryan, exactly. Operators didn't make the list. It was some engineer that was sitting in a room going, the mono boom, that's a really good idea. We should rank them higher. That's what it was. Wayne, the only issue, so 100% Takeuchi, I will say this. Takeuchi makes great skid steers, but steer away from them for the time being. They're having tremendous issues with their after treatment package, and it is causing the engines to go into limp mode, consistently, constantly, all the time. It's a huge issue going on right now with Takeuchi. And I hate to say that because, Elliot, thanks for hanging out, by the way, man. Appreciate it. I hate to say it about Takeuchi because they make such a good skid steer with the exception of that. So, just be careful if you start going down the road of Takeuchi. And Taylor, 100%, whatever's got the best, that's more important than paint color, more important than folklore, more important than anything else. It's who can support the machine. That's going to be the best machine for you because uptime is everything. So that's right, Taylor. Operator error, man. I was shaving that bank in a way that I probably shouldn't have, and it fell, and there was a tidal wave of muck, and it landed in my lap. And in my defense, I got my comeuppance because I went home with pants that smelled like shit, even though I had not shit myself. So Taylor, you got to be careful though deleting the packages, because first of all, you got to worry about your warranty. Secondly, you've got to worry about, which I was going to mention to you with the delete that you were talking about doing. If you bypass the SCR or the DPF through purely a software delete, that soot is still building up in those catalysts, and you will run into issues down the road, even if they're not immediate. So just be careful doing software only deletes as opposed to also deleting the physical after treatment package. You can run into problems down the road. So paintball so hard. That's awesome. Welcome to the brotherhood, first of all. Secondly, best piece of advice I can tell you is, dude, just be a sponge, man. Soak it all up, and don't think for a second that once you get out of that school, you're anywhere close to being an expert or knowing what you're doing. You're still very much going to be super green to the industry. I would say you don't really start to get a handle on this industry until you've been in it for at least a year, if not two. So especially as coming in as a younger guy, just, have thick skin, because you're going to get bitched at, and it's okay. Just let it roll off your back. And then secondly, you're already going to come into this with guys speculating that you're going to be a know-it-all millennial. That's just part of the business. I'm sorry that it is that way, but it is what it is. The old timers just hate on young guys. Just keep your head down and continue to learn, and let your work ethic prove yourself, and you will gain the respect of the guys on the job site. And that is the best piece of advice I can give you. So, but man, have fun, dude. This is such a fun industry. Don't let someone shove you out of it because they had a bad day and they took it out on you. Stick with it. It's a very rewarding career. You're going to have lots of fun. You get to play on some really big toys. Like, it's hard to beat it. So in all honesty, welcome to the brotherhood. Glad to have you here, man. AP, get out of here. Just, isn't it your bedtime? It's got to be like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's your bedtime, man. Now you're just starting to hallucinate with JCB awesomeness. Oh, Bacon, I've actually, believe it or not, I've got a series kind of planned that I would like to go down at some point in time of the physics of digging. And I'm not talking about like actual equations, but I do want to talk about like the application of leverage and how you're using different parts of the machine to multiply force. And there is, especially as you get further along in your operational career, you get way more technical with a machine, and you start to think about the digging forces you're applying as opposed to just, I want to scoop some dirt. How to peel stumps out the correct way versus beating the snot out of your machine, stuff like that. There is, over and over and over again, people severely underestimate how intelligent construction workers are. And that's a great example of what you just stated. Like, you've got some complex physics going on. Even if you can't put down on paper what the equations are, Like, you understand and you know the concepts that are being applied when you leverage things a certain way, or you try to, brace against this so that you can apply force over here. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. So at some point in time, I may put that series out, and it's going to be something along the lines of physics of digging. And we'll get into, I'm going to use some of my little die-cast models to actually talk about, and show the way you can apply more force using a bucket in a particular angle, or using your stick closer in versus further out, stuff like that. So 100%. That's right, Ryan. We're just going to have to, we'll follow that with Freebird. Like, we'll put the national anthem on and then Freebird. That's what the background music to the live stream will turn into. It's just to get AP to pipe down. Wayne, let us know if you try that out. Let us know some honest thoughts on it. Like I said, as much as I rag on it, I'm willing to give anything a shot, but it's got to stand up to it. So, Ryan, we ain't going to hang a banner. If he sends me some swag, I'll wear the swag just for the sake of supporting AP, because I do appreciate him supporting me. I ain't going to hang a freaking banner in here. No way. Let's see here. Nathan, have you seen these metallic? They're crazy. I recommend. No? What is a metallic? Let's look at that. Metallic excavators. Oh, is this one of those weird, like, crossover machine? Oh, it is. Okay, let me switch the browser over where you guys can see what I'm looking at. I have not tried one of these things, but I am intrigued. That's a pretty innovative idea. Yeah, all of their stuff is goofy. So they've got the, like, weird hybrid excavator. Yeah. These things are goofy. I have not messed with these at all. I have no experience with them whatsoever. And in all honesty, with the look and how innovative they've been with their stuff, I actually thought it was JCB putting this stuff out. What the heck? Huh. Interesting. No, I haven't messed with those at all. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't even been contacted by anyone from them. So, no, I don't know. Taylor, I'm sorry. I forgot what we were talking about that you said example grading that clay. I don't even remember what we were talking about and what that was referencing. I'm sorry, I got lost. Hey, Dignation, no problem, man. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you showing up at all. Yeah, Ryan, 100%. The fact that we're giving each other crap and no one's getting offended or getting their panties in a twist about it, like that's what this is about. It's about having a good time. So, yeah, Finkel, 100%. Finkel, what are you doing here? I thought you were logging off like a half hour ago. Didn't you say bye to everyone and like we made this big spectacle of telling Finkel bye? Or was that, am I thinking of somebody else? I could have swore you said you were logging off. We're going to scroll back. We're scrolling back. Yeah, ha, you did. You sucker, you were just wanting attention. I know what's going on. Yeah, Rick, that's, there's so many aspects. The loader for case loaders, phenomenal machines with the exception of the counterweight. Skid steers, they did a phenomenal machine except for the wiring harness issues and some of the other issues that I'm not going to talk about. Their excavators, they actually did a really good job on their excavators, but they're a little on the pricey side in my opinion. I agree. Case puts out great equipment, but they just, man, it's like they have that just last little bit that they should put in there and they don't. So, Yeah, Ryan, that's my only experience with those machines is the one that Chris tried out, and he didn't like it. I don't remember the details of it. I don't know that I watched the whole video. I didn't have time at the time to watch the whole video. Um, but that is literally the only reason I know that machine exists. But I would have to go play with one of those for a couple of days probably to make an accurate assessment. I feel like any like 10-minute, 15-minute, even a half-hour long demo wouldn't give you the time to really put it through its paces, not only in the excavator configuration, but in the skid loader configuration. Like, you need like 3 or 4 days in that machine to really put it through its paces and make an accurate assessment on it. So, all right, it's good to have you back, Finkel. So what do you think of the dumpers, AP? Just out of curiosity. Oh, Taylor, yes, 100%. Yeah, changing your operating techniques for different conditions. I actually talk about that in one of the vlogs that's going to come out. I think it's in day 3 or 4. I talk pretty heavily about how being a good operator means that you change your digging techniques to the conditions instead of just continuing to do the same thing because it's working, and why change? Like, you're always working on being more efficient and more productive, and if conditions change, you're also changing what you're doing to adapt to those new conditions. So yeah, it's 100% being an operator requires a lot of brain power, and a lot of people outside of the trades just don't realize that. So they said they were clumsy. That's interesting, Ryan. I would imagine that would be my guess. Just looking at it, it doesn't look like an easy machine to operate. It looks like it would be fairly cumbersome to try to couple everything. It looks like it would be awkward and not really good at either one of the things that it's designed for. Again, that's just totally guessing because I have zero experience with these things. So, which, by the way, guys, 5 minutes. Let's wrap this up. I hate to just cut us off here, but at the same time, it is getting to the point where I do need to cut these off at a given time so that we're not running 4 hours in. So let's do another 5 minutes, and we're going to cut this off at 10 o'clock. But see, AP, you're talking on all these brands that we don't even like. I've never even heard of Thwaites or whatever. Terex isn't nearly as popular over here as it is over there. We actually sold Terex dump trucks, the off-road dump trucks, and they were garbage. I think they just got bought up by Volvo, believe it or not. Was it Volvo? I can't remember, but somebody just bought up Terex's off-road dump truck, articulated dump truck line. So that's the only experience I have with Terex, and it was not super positive. So yeah, 3 a.m. Yeah, it's bedtime, AP. You need to get out of here with your JCB-ness. You need to go take a nap and come back to your senses and realize that JCB is garbage. That's what it is. You have to accept that. And I think with a little sleep, we can come to terms with that. That's the other part of it, Nathan. It strikes me that they would be really specialty machines. Like, there are a few applications where they would shine, and everywhere else they would just not be worth anything. So I don't know. Maybe I need to get a hold of them and see if they'll let me play in one for a week or so. You up for that, Rick? I'll get you one of those machines and we'll go put it through its paces on one of your job sites. Bacon, I would say ISO. Just because so many machines. ISO, for those of you who are not familiar, ISO is going to be your cat controls. SAE is going to be the deer controls, if you want to call them that. But I would say the vast majority of large companies are using ISO, and so I would familiarize yourself with the ISO. That being said, so many of the new machines, almost every single new machine now comes with a pattern switcher that's very easily accessible. If it's not a button in the cab, in excavators, it is directly behind the cab in the panel. There's going to be a very small nondescript little valve that will turn, and that's your pattern switcher. And honestly, for the past 10 years, they've been almost all with pattern switchers. So I really wouldn't get too hung up on control patterns, but if you had to pick, I would say go for ISO. Yeah, Ryan, 100%. That's pretty much what I was just saying. It's probably got a few things that it's okay and does decent at, and the rest it's really not that good at it. So Wayne, that's a great question. I have not had a chance to sit in the Minotaur yet, but everything I have heard about it, it is the way to go if you want to have a dozer style application in a CTL. The Deere 333G, I will say this, I just ran Taylor's 333G. I loved that skid steer. It was a great CTL. I was very happy with its performance. But if you don't have that C-frame coupled to the machine, don't bother trying to doze with it. It's never going to work. The whole way a dozer is able to carry grade is because you can anchor that blade and it will hold grade relative to the machine. It's not moving, it's not fluctuating. You can't do that unless you have a C-frame coupled to the machine. That's where the Minotaur is just so different than anything else out there on the market. Again, I haven't sat in the seat. I'm really hoping here in the next few months something comes to fruition with Case to where I can get out to their testing facility out in Tomahawk and actually sit in one. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's what I'm pushing for with Case. So we'll see what happens. Which, if that happens, you know I'm going to be all over that whole experience with video. We're going to really do it up, and I'm going to try to get you some details on it. So, hey, Loader82, thanks for showing up, man. Appreciate it. And I've really been appreciate you commenting on the recent videos. AP, we all know what Case stands for. Just, it's already been said. Just get out of here. Go. I'm telling you, go to bed. And yes, I agree. Great stream. This has been fun, guys. Yeah, so Ryan, going back to that, I was super happy. So I had not really spent any real time in John Deere machines in their CTLs. I was really happy with that 333. So visibility, I will say, so if you're going to compare, the TV 450 would probably be the most accurate comparison to the 333G. The Case is going to win in visibility hands down. Just because you have massive freaking arms on that 333G. You don't have any visibility out of the back of the cab on the Deere, and you have to have your backup camera. That being said, that 333, in my opinion, seemed to have a little bit better of a ride. Mind you, I was on pretty level ground, so for what it is, take that with a grain of salt. But pushing power, man, that 333G is built like a tank. And I could absolutely see where you could push some real severe material with that machine. So I was really, really pleased with its performance. I really liked the feel of the hydraulics in it compared to the Case Alpha series. I need to go back and run a Case B series to really compare the new EH controls to the 333G. But as far as the hydraulic controls or the EH controls in that G compared to the Alpha series, I was way in favor of the 333G. The Alpha series, and they're notorious for this, that's why they ended up redoing the hydraulics on the B series, is because they were so freaking jittery and jumpy. So yeah, that's my thoughts there. Yeah, Taylor, 100%. Yeah, unless it couples to the machine, there's no point. So, Ryan, I'm hoping to get some footage, man. We'll see what happens. Wayne, thanks for joining in. We're gonna wrap it up, guys. We're 3 minutes over. I think that's acceptable. We can all claim that's acceptable. But thank you guys for all hanging out. Just to reiterate, no live stream next week because of Easter, and I might be out of town. So it's gonna be 2 weeks before I see you guys. Stay out of trouble. Try to stay occupied, AP. Try to stay out of a JCB. We don't want you getting into trouble while we're gone. And we will catch you guys. Oh, hang on. What's Loader 82 got? Heavy quad motor grader. Hey, motor grader. There you go. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I'm hoping to continue to bring you nuggets of wisdom. If not, we'll just provide some entertainment. And if not, we will give you a way to vent on the internet your anger towards the world. You can just funnel it this way. So anyway, thanks again for hanging out, guys. You guys have a great evening. As always, I'm going to leave the chat up for another 5 or 10 minutes so you guys can kind of wind down, and we'll catch you guys here in 2 weeks.